Well, the book is really a big history of abolition, and I'm trying to challenge some of the conventional ideas associated with abolition, extending its chronological boundaries to the 18th century, and looking at it as more of a radical movement that involved many other issues besides the emancipation of the slave, even though that was central to it. And the second new thing about the book, I think, is the way in which I see the enslaved themselves playing a central role in the abolition movement, whether through rebellions, running away, petitioning, suing for their own freedom, but that African Americans were really at the heart of the movement. And that's something that historians don't generally acknowledge. Images and pamphlets were the ways in which the abolitionists really got their ideas across. A lot of them were lecturers, lecturing agents, going out and making these speeches. Some of these speeches were published as pamphlets. Some of these speeches were published in newspapers. So we obviously don't know and we cannot recreate an abolitionist meeting. But you can read about it and you can read the exact words. But many of these speeches that were very important would be republished as pamphlets and sent out to constituents. And that's why I like the American Slavery Collection so much, because they have digitized many of these pamphlets. That is extremely valuable. I think not just if you're a political historian, but even if you are trying to capture that time in terms of really looking at the ways in which people advertised material or even the imagery used. And newspapers in those days were not objective. They were partisan newspapers. They tended to belong to a certain point of view. They actually propagated that point of view. It was not just in the editorials, it was everywhere. There was no conception of objective journalism in those days. So they become really valuable for historians. I really tell my students when they approach research to be sort of not to be too narrowly focused, but in fact to do as much as possible. Because the more you read on your subject and around it, the better you get at it. And this is where digitization is so helpful, because it's humanly impossible to run around reading everything, but you do have your computer at home and you just, at your fingertips, have access to this wealth of material. Just having that access, I think, will make for just better histories too, better, broader histories, which is what we need.